Hello hunters, and I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the part 3 of our refresher course for SLA. This time, we'll talk about the damage dealers. If you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, it is about the breakers and supports. I'll link the video in the description and comments if you'd like to check it out. Alright, let's start with what are damage dealers and what is their role on the team. As the name implies, damage dealers, they are the hunters that deals most of the damage per run. They specializes in dealing lots of damage and making sure that the content or the dungeon will be cleared in the time that is allotted. Usually just 2 to 3 minutes per clear or per dungeon. Then, how do you identify if a hunter is a damage dealer? Again, aside or unlike the breakers that has this icon, the damage dealers and supports doesn't have any identifier aside their type. Usually, or most of the time, if the hunter is a fighter, an assassin, mage, they're most likely your main damage dealer. The other thing to look for is on their skills. If they buff their own, if they can increase their damage on their own, then that means they are a damage dealer. If they don't have any buffs to other teammates, if they don't have a break icon on their skills, that's also another way to identify that the hunter is a damage dealer. Next question would be, do you need a damage dealer every time you clear a dungeon? Yes and no. Or most probably, it's always yes. Because, as I've mentioned, SLA is more about time limit. Everywhere or every content you do always has a time limit. So having a damage dealer will ensure that the content will be cleared on the specified time. Next is, what are the best artifacts for maximizing a damage dealer's potential? Let's go ahead and look on the artifacts. The currently best artifact right now that is released would be the Burning Curse. The Burning Curse can increase the hunter's damage. But let's say on the 8 piece, it can increase the user's damage by 30%. And additionally, 0.2 every second to stack, and it will stack 100 times. So if you stack it on the first 100 minutes, like 100 seconds, like 1 minute 40 seconds, then you'll get a total of 50% damage increase. That alone is what makes the curse the artifact that is the best ones for your damage dealers. Though it has a drawback that it can increase the user's damage taken by 20%, you just have to work on your supports or breakers and your dodging skills so you wouldn't be one shot in case there's a huge damage from the enemies. The alternatives for the curse, for example, you don't have good pieces yet, there's actually a lot compared to supports and breakers. You can do toughness for additional crit stats. You can do one hit kill if your hunter focuses on dealing damage using their ult. Armed if they scales with attack and has defense penetration playstyle like the fire team or any fire hunters. Solid foundation if that hunter is focused on dealing damage with their core attack like Alicia. Warmonger is also a good one for your hunters that scales with attack or defense. And on the right side, there's also a lot of items or sets to choose from. Executioner or Berserker, these are general sets. Any hunters or damage dealing hunters can use this since this increases the user's damage dealt. Expert and champion on the field should only be used by attack scaling hunters like Cha, Mirei, Alicia. Concentration of firepower can be used but situational because it consumes a lot of your mana. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Basically, the damage dealers has a lot more variety on their builds compared to breakers and supports. Now, let's move on to the current hunters that are released, which can be considered as a damage dealer. Again, this is in no particular order. We have Kanai, Tamasandre, Charlotte, Amamiya Mirei, Yusuyun, Gina, Alicia, Deborah, Wang Dongsu, Choi Jong-in, and Silver Main Baek Yunho, Cha Hae-in, and the SSRs. And here's my recommendation if you are trying to build a damage dealing hunter. Here's my top 3. Again, I'll be biased with Cha. She's my favorite hunter since release. She also scales with crit. Her playstyle is very fast. You just have to use her first skill until it runs out of usage. Ultimate, second skill out, then repeat. So that's one. I consider her as one of the best hunters since her playstyle is very easy to set up. Her damage is still good even if the light team isn't the meta right now. The next would be Mirei. You'll need Mirei on the Workshop of Brilliant Light Baron to clear it. And she also deals a lot of damage. Much more compared to Cha. Her playstyle is also very simple. You just have to use her first and second skill. Ultimate, first normal attack, second normal attack, then spam this until you get out of mana, then repeat. My last would be Tawata Kanai. She's what I believe on this current patch, the highest damage dealing hunter. her second skill is out of this world currently. I think just one setup with breakers and supports, she can melt any bosses. Honorable mention would be Thomas Andre. If I am not biased with Cha, I think she'll get the place of Cha because she really, I mean, Thomas deals more damage than Cha. Honestly. Another one would be Charlotte and Yu Soo-yun. So yeah, that's it for me. On the hunters I recommend, or like the top hunters in my opinion. Moving forward, how important is elemental advantage to damage dealers? As I've mentioned as well on the breaker video, you'll need to bring hunters that are the weakness of the boss. Like if you go here, you can see again that this centipede is weak to wind. By bringing Mirei, then which is wind hunter, Mirei will deal another 50% damage. Because basically the base is 100%. By bringing Mirei or any wind type hunters, they'll deal additional damage. And let's say you'd like to bring Kanai here. Actually, no, Cha. Now let's go with Kanai. By bringing Kanai, you can see that her banner here has a down icon, meaning she's not effective on this run because the boss actually has a how do we call that, defense for fire attacks or fire hunters, meaning Kanai's attack will be 50% less than it currently is, meaning she'll not be effective on this fight, even though she is the best or the highest damage dealing hunter currently on the game. So with that, that's how important the elemental weaknesses on the damage dealer as well. It just doesn't apply to breakers. It is much more important to the damage dealers. Next question is, do damage dealers need breakers or supports to maximize their damage? I'll say that it is an absolute rule that if you'd like your damage dealer to shine or to deal more damage, you'll need to set it up properly. You'll need to set it up properly. For example, here on Mirei, she can deal a lot of damage on her own. But if you put Hansemi, which clearly is made for Mirei, you can provide lots of buff to Mirei. For example, let me check her skills. This one can heal, and this one is what Mirei would like because it can recover her MP. And this one provides a shield, so basically a defensive part or a defensive utility or support for Mirei. And here on Hansemi's passive, you can see that it increases the user's basic skill damage And Mirai is based on basic skills plus additional wind basic skill damage. So without Hansemi, Mirai can deal damage, but with Hansemi around, she can make Mirai deal more damage and clear the content faster. And on Goto or any breaker like Wujin Chu, it is also necessary to have them, since if the enemy has a break gauge, then Mirai won't be able to deal that much damage, because the boss will have a very high buff for damage taken decrease. So yeah, in short, you'll need your support and breaker to make your damage dealer shine. Now lastly, for this course, what are the common mistakes players make when building a damage dealer? I've stumbled upon some players that ask me how their hunters, or most likely how their Sung Jinu can deal damage. When I ask them to check or send me their account, I noticed that they aren't building or choosing the right stats. For example, on Sung Jinu, you'd like a lot of attack for him because he scales with attack. You don't want to have a piece, for example, on the headpiece, you don't want anything else aside attack or additional attack. As I mentioned, yes, Curse is the best one for the damage dealers, but you should also look on what stats they actually scales on. So for example, on Sung Jinu, you'll know that he scales with attack by checking on his skills. If it says here that damage is percentage of Jinu's attack, that means his attack, or he scales with attack. If you go with Gunhi, you can see here that the percentage of the user's defense, meaning he scales with defense. So on Sung Jinu, that, as we can see here, scales with attack, you need to also look for artifacts that actually scales with attack. You don't want to have defense, additional defense, or HP. So on this head, you need attack. Make sure the main stat is attack. This crit hit damage. And here is attack. You just have to remember these two because you can select the main on it. And on the sub stats, you'd also like to have on whatever they scale. And again, for Sung Jinu, he scales with attack. So I tried to get an artifact that has both attack stats as substats, because I can't pick additional attack here. The next mistake I see is just equipping the incorrect artifact. So we've already discussed about what artifacts is, or who should have this artifact. But just remember that if you are a damage dealer, you'd like to always have Burning Curse, at least 4, 8 if you'd like to push your total power, and pick the right other sets for it. For example, on Sanjinu, you'd like either 8-piece curse or 4-piece curse with 4-piece expert or champion on the field, or these two can do. But if you'd like your life to be easy, you can always check my shorts channel, my shorts video. I've discussed almost, I'll say, every hunter. I've already had a short video about them on what their recommended builds are, so you can check that out if you have doubts, and you're welcome. But if I missed something, yeah, let me know on the comments for it. I mean, drop a comment on that video and let me know if I ever missed it. And I guess that's it for this refresher video. Just a quick summary. You'll need damage dealers everywhere you go, just how you need supports everywhere you go. Next is always take a look on the elemental, or take advantage of the elemental weakness damage, because that will make the content be cleared faster. Make sure to build Sanjinu appropriately. Make sure to build your hunters appropriately. And if you have doubts, check my shorts video. And that's it for this damage dealer refresher video. I hope you liked it, and if you do, make sure to leave a like, comment, and share to your friends to let them refresh their knowledge about damage dealers. Thanks for watching, hunters, and I'll see you on the next one.